Bulletcast for life.
Welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon. Thank you very much for downloading and listening to this podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be going over NXT and the Mae Young Classic, just like we did last week. But we will also go over the Kenny Omega Ishii match that happened over the weekend at New Japan Destruction, as well as my thoughts on the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, where I'm going to save the Hell in a Cell recap for the very end, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you people have already heard plenty of recap, and you're here to digest some new material and talk about some shows that maybe on your other podcasts, especially on the Bulletcast, that we don't normally talk about. But first, we're going to have some breaking news. My girl, Alexa Bliss, will not be a part of the Mixed Match Challenge. Team Little Big will not be reunited for a second season. Of course, the reason that this happened was she sustained an arm injury at Hell in a Cell in her match against Ronda Rousey. No word that I can find out if it's a legit injury or just kind of an angle, just kind of putting over Ronda a little bit more. I don't understand why they would. They would make this a work if this mixed match challenge thing has been in the works for so long, unless if Vince was, had to stick up his ass and saying that she has to sell for Ronda, even though she barely even sold for Ronda for SummerSlam. She had the cast on for 1 week, and then after that, she was perfectly fine. So I assume this is probably some sort of legit injury. Unfortunately, Alexa Bliss, the Team Little Big, had great promos backstage. They have good chemistry. They always have like this awkward sexual tension in all their promos and their matches. So it was always fun to watch them. Ember Moon will be replacing Alexa Bliss in the Mixed Match Challenge. So that is the news coming out of that. No promises. I'm probably not going to watch the Mixed Match Challenge. I already have so much on my plate in terms of watching wrestling, and I got school still going on, so probably not going to review that on this podcast unless if something stands out to me, if there's some match that just absolutely tears the house down. But Mixed Match Challenge happens on a Tuesday night. I record this Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon my time, but on the East Coast it goes up around 5-6 o'clock, so I'm probably not going to review that. But what I do review is NXT and the Mae Young Classic. Let's just jump right into it. We have the NXT TV report from last week, just in time before the new episode comes out. We had Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch coming out to face Cesar Bononi and Adrian Jaud. Adrian was a competitor against Cassius Ohno a few weeks ago. I said I really liked him. I thought he had a good character, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, big dude. But in the end, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch get the victory. Fun match between these four guys. Obviously, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch getting the comeback, so obviously they're going to get the win here. It's going to be fun to see what this team does going forward. They already had their tag team match or tag team title match before they lost, so do they not repackage them, but do they try to build them up a little bit more? And maybe try to have them face off against either Undisputed Era, or maybe the War Raiders, if War Raiders turn heel. And because obviously, I don't know, maybe you just kind of have them, maybe not toil, but you just have them kind of in the tag team division, kind of winning their matches, kind of getting their mojo back, and then down the line, eventually, they get some sort of tag team title opportunity. So then next up, new music for Tomasso Ciampa. Tomasso Ciampa has music. He came out to the ring and cut a promo. Tomasso Ciampa's new music. I don't know if he needs it. It is kind of a new thing where he doesn't have any entrance music. I'm kind of torn because, obviously the reason he didn't have music is because the crowd just absolutely booed him. They hated his guts, so just the crowd noise was his music. But his reasoning was so he had the music so he could tune them all out, which does kind of make sense. The music itself, I think it's fine. I don't know if I'm kind of torn because, do you give him music because he's gotten past the whole Johnny Gargano thing, and that's kind of like the heat, like the hottest thing he's probably going to do on NXT, and maybe the crowd reaction isn't going to be as hot for him. So do you just put the music out there to kind of not because, well, but if you have no music, then like you encourage the fans to boo him even more, just keep booing him. So that's what's kind of tearing me apart. Shout out to Backstreet. Is it Backstreet Boys? I don't know. I'm more of an NSYNC guy, so I don't know a lot of the Backstreet Boys songs. But Tomasso Ciampa does come out. He cuts a promo, just a straightforward heel promo. He said that he was going to attack Aleister Black, but somebody beat him to the punch. Just basically a straightforward promo, just kind of saying that he beat Aleister, he beat Gargano. No matter if Aleister Black was going to be there or not, the result would have stayed the same. He kind of just went on ranting and raving. So, it is what it is. Good heel promo from Ciampa, just kind of moving on, not really doing anything to set up a new feud, but something did happen later on in the show. We will get into that. So, next up, we have Shayna Baszler going up against Violent Pain. That's a hell of a name right there. And Shayna Baszler defeats Pain in 1 minute and 27 seconds. So Shayna Baszler, obviously just a straight up squash match, and Shayna Baszler just ran right through Pain. After the match, well, she choked her out with the finish, obviously, and then she just kept coming back and choking her out and just putting the submission move on her. It would have been a nice little thing to maybe disqualify her, because maybe that's just, some way to put heat on Shayna Baszler, but then are you really going to do anything following up with a Violent Pain down the line in the women's division? I don't think so. So just give Shayna the win, showing that bully Shayna Baszler is back. And I think it's a good character, really kind of heatens her up. It's kind of the thing that you do with heels. You have the heel lose, and then they come back, and now they're like meaner and more vicious than ever because they're angry that they lost. So it's just kind of straightforward, wrestling 101 booking. Lars Sullivan was set to face Raul Mendoza, but before we went to that match, we go backstage, or we go to the parking lot for Heavy Machinery. They do one of their selfie videos, and they threaten Tomasso Ciampa a little bit, and then Tomasso Ciampa overheard them, and he goes up to Otis and challenges him. William Regal comes out and says that he hasn't seen Ciampa in a few weeks. He hasn't been returning his calls, so Ciampa got sent to the principal's office. Regal said that eventually the match between Ciampa and Otis will happen, but we didn't have a timetable or a date set specifically for that. So obviously, next week we have the big match with Pete Dunne and Ricochet, so that's not going to happen. But probably in the next week or two, we're going to have that match. I like it. I mean, obviously Otis, I don't think is going to beat Ciampa, but Ciampa just hasn't been wrestling a whole lot on NXT TV, which is kind of his character. He doesn't really care about the fans all that much. He just kind of shows up, gets his big money match, and he leaves. So it would make sense for Ciampa to, just kind of stay away, and that's what he's been doing lately, not even showing up at the arena, just doing his own backstage promos. But it should be fun to see what Otis can do with Ciampa. It's a nice kind of different, it's kind of a styles clash, you would say, with Otis being the big brute and Ciampa being the kind of an undersized heel, I would say. They're kind of they went face to face and they're basically the same size, which obviously Otis is not the tallest person in the world, and neither is Ciampa, so but Otis is so much thicker than Ciampa, there you can maybe play up that, just Otis having a little bit of an upper hand strength-wise. Backstage, we had the Undisputed Era cutting a backstage promo on the War Raiders, just kind of, ripping on them, and then Adam Cole talked about the match next week with Ricochet and Pete Dunne, saying that it's going to be the Adam Cole Invitational because whoever wins is going to end up losing both titles to Adam Cole, baby. As I talked about earlier, Lars Sullivan went up against Raul Mendoza. 4 minutes, 10 seconds. Raul Mendoza was great here. He was a bumping machine for Lars, but then he also made his little bit of a comeback, almost teased, maybe getting the upset victory, but then Lars hit his finish in the end for the victory. So I thought this was a good match. Obviously, a much longer squash than the Shayna Baszler match earlier. This one was over 4 minutes. The Shayna Baszler match was not even a minute and a half. But I think this one really worked here. Raul Mendoza got built up a little bit over the past few weeks, and he goes up against Lars, puts up a valiant effort, but in the end, Lars goes over. So that is it for that. Earlier in the day, Pete Dunne was seen walking into the arena, and a unnamed reporter asks him on his mindset going into the Ricochet match, Once again, he said that Ricochet has barely had his title, and he's the longest running champion in WWE. Just straight up, kind of babyface trash talking, nothing too heelish here from Pete Dunne. And then we go backstage for Ricochet to get his reaction, and he says that the 5 minutes have felt more like a month, but that's just how he feels. And then Ricochet reminds him that they have a long history. Reminds us that he has a long history. He vows to become the NXT one and only double champion. So nothing special from either guy, just straight up babyface promos, just building up this match. I don't think the match needs all that much build up. It's two great wrestlers going up against each other, champion versus champion. You don't need a whole lot, but maybe you could have had a little bit more not seriousness, but maybe a little bit more trash talk, but kind of keeping it light, because I don't think either one of these guys are going to turn heel in the match. So then we had a vignette on the Forgotten Sons. So it is what it is on that. Last week, some random people were being talked to on camera for some reason, and then out of nowhere, Dakota Kai is getting into an argument with Aaliyah, and then Lacey Evans backs up Aaliyah, and Deonna Purrazzo backs up Dakota Kai. So this sets up a tag match that is going to set place next week. It was sort of random, didn't really make any sense why these people were being interviewed on camera, but I mean, I'm open to NXT trying new things. They technically do these type of things where they're recording something and then they turn to something else, and it does make sense. I just don't understand why they were recording these looks like these college students from Full Sail just randomly in a cafeteria or a lounge area. Next up, we go back to William Regal's office. We haven't really seen any interrogation scenes lately. Kairi Sane was in Regal's office and she was just leaving. Didn't exactly see what she was saying, but then someone bangs on the door and it ends up being Cassius Ohno wearing a throwback Cesaro Tyson Kidd shirt. So shout out to Tyson Kidd and Cesaro on that one. Very underrated tag team. They were great back in their day. The lawyer talks to Regal, and Regal said that he doesn't have anything for Ohno because Kairi Sane gave him an alibi. Ohno got angry, kind of talked about more of the stuff he said in the ring last week about him being overlooked, and he's ready to take on the next hyped guy. So he said, he told Regal that he used to be the hyped guy, but then now he has been pushed to the back of the line, and he challenged Regal's next hype guy to a match. And he said he ended with bro. So I think we all know where that's going. Cassius Ohno versus Matt Riddle. It looks like down the line, hopefully Survivor Series, because I will be there being selfish a little bit, but I don't really care because I really want to see Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno, because that would be a hell of a match, especially if they build it up the right way and Cassius Ohno turns full-fledged heel. Right now he's kind of a complaining babyface. Still can kind of see his points of view, but then Matt Riddle comes back, Ohno lays him out a few times, and Matt Riddle wants to, get fired up and take on Ohno. So that should be a fun feud down the line. Hopefully it happens at Survivor Series and not just on a NXT show. So next up we have the main event, Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair. Only a 5-minute, 15-second match, and it ends in a double countout. Nikki Cross was her crazy self as always. Bianca Belair selling for her. Good back and forth match. It was nothing real special here. Bianca Belair, as I said, still sort of green. She showed great. She military pressed Cross and dumped her on her face. A lot better than what Ultimate Warrior did. But just a straight up kind of match. They go back and forth. I was thinking, are they going to put Belair over since she's kind of been undefeated? So Nikki Cross hasn't really been doing all that much, but nope, they just go for they start brawling on the outside, and that leads to a double countout for both of them. So I guess still keeping Nikki Cross a little bit strong, still up in the air what she's doing. She was on the she was on Raw's stage when the Evolution and pay-per-view was announced, and yet we haven't really seen her on. I don't know if she's doing house shows still for WWE. Maybe not. Who really knows? But now the Bella Twins are back, so maybe the Bella Twins took Nikki Cross's spot. Post-match, they start brawling up the ramp. Belair gets away, going through the side exit next to the announce table. Nikki Cross catches up with her. She gets up on the announce table and does a big crossbody onto Belair as well as some other referees. And that is how the show ends. It was a good episode. It wasn't anything special. Right now, being a few weeks removed from Takeover, and if Takeover, the next Takeover being so far away, they're not exactly showing their hand right now and saying where they're going for everything. It's a real slow build. Especially with NXT only being an hour, you don't have to put everything out there. Just kind of have a few storylines. No real storyline progression, you would say. I mean, maybe the Shayna Baszler thing, kind of getting her fire back, and the Cassius Ohno thing. But, I mean, the Cassius Ohno thing was basically the same thing he said last week. So, just kind of a fine match or a fine show for what it was. No real special matches. I did like the Lars Sullivan squash. It was good. This is why squash matches should be more of a thing in WWE. But, it is what it is. So next up we have the Mae Young Classic. And another batch of 4 matches. And first we have Deonna Purrazzo versus Priscilla Kelly. Priscilla Kelly, my God, she looks like a blatant copy of Paige, basically. I mean, no one really said it except for Renee said it like, oh, she kind of reminds me of Paige. And I'm like, I just burped in the microphone. That might be a first. Actually, I did it last week on the Bulletcast. If you caught that, shout out to you. But anyways, Renee Young said that she looked like Paige. And she obviously did. She was, pale white girl with black eyeliner and black hair, and she even had the purple ring attire just like Paige used to have back in NXT. I'm not going to say that hurts her a whole lot, but it does kind of like take something away from the act because she reminds me so much of Paige. Deonna Purrazzo, obviously she's one of the bigger names in the Mae Young Classic, and she ends up getting the victory. Good match between the two. Real even Steven match. And then out of nowhere, Purrazzo puts on the Fujiwara armbar for the victory. I don't know if I'd say one of the better matches of the tournament thus far, but it was just solid back and forth match. Nothing real messed up here. It is what it is right now. I mean, early rounds in the Mae Young Classic, especially, I said this last week, they're not here to really wow anybody. They're just kind of here to get the characters over. And so some of the characters that they got over here was Zekus. I am butchering that name. She's a luchador. Up against Ariel Monroe. Ariel Monroe has a great look to her. She's a former Air Force, I believe. She's a former Air Force pilot, or whatever you would call it. She had like greenish blue hair, great body. Zekus. I am just terrible with that name. She is a luchador. Cole said that she would be a stunt double for people in the telenovelas. It's a little bit of a slow pace to this match. Kind of, once again, another kind of back and forth match. They kind of wanted to go with the hard hitting strong style. I don't think it really came across all that well. Just the strikes weren't hitting clean. They weren't landing properly. Maybe it's just I've seen a lot of strong style stuff, so I know what really good strong style looks like, and this just wasn't it. I don't know if they were trying too hard, trying to oversell the strong style. The end of the match was with a Spanish fly from the top rope. Zekus gets the win, being the subtle, not so subtle heel. The crowd really wanted Monroe to win. She has great charisma. Monroe does. Early in the match, Z. I'm just gonna call her Z. Z. Touched her hair, and Monroe was like, "Girl, you better not touch my hair, or else I'm gonna slap the piss out you," or something like that. And it got over with the crowd because then Z touched her hair again, and then the crowd was like, "Oh, you fucked up." And then Monroe makes a little bit of a comeback. As I said, all right match, just not the probably one of the maybe one of the worst matches of the tournament thus far. So then we have Rena Gonzalez against Casey Catanzaro. Casey is a former American Ninja Warrior contestant, the only woman to make it to the city finals and go up the warped wall. So a big name, big celebrity. Rena Gonzalez, a 6-foot monster, and Casey's only 5 foot, so the size discrepancy here was very apparent. I like Casey's entrance. She was real over with the crowd. She climbs up the turnbuckle post, kind of like an American Ninja Warrior would do. And the match itself was basically what you would think. Gonzalez just kind of dominating a lot of the match, and then Casey would kind of squeak by and just kind of be resistant and kind of do little things to reverse her. And in the end, Casey gets the roll up for the 3 count. Big pop from the crowd. Casey seems to be over with the crowd. Obviously, sometimes when there's the celebrity here, the crowd might want to turn on her, but they didn't. They were stuck with Casey. She's a cute little 5-foot, ninja. She's a 5-foot ninja. So, going to be easy to get over. Going to see what happens when she faces maybe some of the other big name talent. I did not see the bracket to see who she's going up against next. But it was a fun victory for her. I think obviously they have big plans for Casey in the future. I don't think maybe Reina might get a job eventually down the line. But I think Casey definitely is the star out of the 2. Obviously, her size might be a little bit of an issue. She's 5 feet. Even she seems smaller than Alexa Bliss. At least Alexa Bliss has some of the powerlifting background. She's a little, I would say, thicker than Casey is. Casey's kind of, I think they said she was like 100 pounds. So, she's definitely smaller than what Alexa Bliss is. And kind of like Sasha Banks, but Sasha Banks is a little bit taller. So she's kind of the worst of the 2. She's small and skinny. Next up, we have the main event, the 4th match of the night. Ashley Rain, also known as Madison Rain, up against Mercedes Martinez. Mercedes made it to the Final 4 last year in the Mae Young Classic. And Martinez ends up getting the victory over Madison Rain. I'm just going to call her Madison because if I say Ashley, I'm going to get all confused. So Madison Rain, she didn't actually get that much of a pop. I was kind of surprised. She came out and the crowd was almost basically dead for her, which was a little bit of a shock to me. But Mercedes got the big pop, definitely the crowd favorite out of the 2. Good back and forth match between these 2 competitors, hard fought. And in the end, Mercedes gets the win. Equal offense, so it wasn't like Mercedes dominated her by any stretch. Mercedes definitely is one of the favorites going forward. Do I think she's going to win? No. Will she make a deep run? Probably. So that's basically it. Just kind of the same as last week, just kind of establishing characters. I think definitely the stars coming out of this is Casey, Catanzaro, basically the winners, Deonna Purrazzo, a lot of those people. But I think out of the losers, I think Ariel Monroe definitely has the most upside. She has good character, good body. Maybe a little bit more work in the ring, but if she can get it together, I think she definitely can be somebody you will be seeing on NXT down the line. Reina Gonzalez, a really good big woman, big man wrestler. There's other women like that in the tournament, and we just talked about one last week. So, do you want more, bigger women on your roster just to kind of mix it up a little bit? I'm okay with that. Just, more body types, more different looks, just to make sure no one, especially like back in the Divas days when everyone just kind of looked like the same cookie cutter swimsuit model. That's definitely not the case now. So having, taller girls, big girls, all girls are welcome on the NXT/WWE roster. Next up, we have New Japan Destruction in Hiroshima, which my thoughts, I know it's a Japanese company, so they can do whatever they want. Probably not the best name for a show in Hiroshima, but to each his own. There was another show in Beta, something like that, which I have not seen yet. The top match is Naito versus Minoru Suzuki. Have not gotten around to seeing that match. But the match I did see was Kenny Omega going up against Tomohiro Ishii for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and by God, this match was fantastic as you would think it would be. The match ended up going 30 minutes and 56 seconds. Kenny Omega defeated Tomohiro Ishii. This match was fantastic. If you have not seen it, I know I just spoiled it for you, but definitely go out of your way and see it. New Japan World's only $9 at the most or something like that, so just go out and give them your hard-earned money, even if it's just to watch this one match, because it definitely was fantastic. Was it better than their G1 match? I don't know. Probably not. But the it was the same thing. Ishii was the crowd favorite, being the Japanese challenger. They wanted to see Ishii win. Ishii just, the man's 40 plus years old, and he's having like the best run of his career in terms of matches and being over with the crowd. There was a crazy spot early on in the match where Ishii was on the announcer's table on the outside, and Kenny goes off the top rope and tries to do a double stomp, and Kenny kind of gets a glancing blow on Ishii, but for the most part, Kenny just falls on his ass on the concrete at ringside, which was not a big fan of that. Kenny, of course, just spamming Ishii with a bunch of V-triggers, just back and forth. I mean, there's just way too many spots to go over. Omega hit a Snapdragon, a V-trigger, and just kind of hitting all the greatest hits, as you would think in a Kenny-Omega match. So, I don't know if I really explained it all that well, but by God, this match was great. Ishii was on the brink of losing, but then, of course, he fired up, made his comeback. Kenny was a little shocked, didn't know what he had to do, but he just kept spamming those V-triggers, finally hit the One-Wing Angel, and got the victory. So, obviously, I spoiled this one, but I did not spoil the other Destruction show. So go subscribe to New Japan World and watch this match as well as the other Destruction show. And there is another, I believe there's another Destruction show. I need to see what that match is, if I can pull it up in time. Oh, here we go. Just right here on the front page. Look at that. Okada versus Tanahashi is on September 23rd. And then we have, coming up later on October 1st, we have the Fighting Spirit Unleashed, which is going to be the show from Long Beach. That is going to be live, I believe, on New Japan World, but it's going to be on tape delay on Access TV. That's Juice Robinson going up against Cody Rhodes for the U.S. Championship, and the Young Bucks against the Tama Tonga and Tongaloa for the IWGP Tag Team Championship. So that should be a fun one. So yeah, that is it for the New Japan talk. And the Hell in a Cell recap, I'm not going to go over every single little thing. Let's see, let's get a time check. 26 minutes. Okay, so I haven't gone terribly long. Still a lot better than the half hour, the hour and 5 minutes I did a couple weeks ago on the All In show. But I mean, I really liked the Hell in a Cell match with Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. Obviously, I'm not Bullet Cast champion because I had a feeling maybe Jeff Hardy was going to do something crazy and maybe he was going to hit it, but obviously he didn't. I thought it was a really good match. Probably one of the most hard-hitting, PG hardcore matches you're going to get in WWE. So I thought that was fine for what it was. The spot with the screwdriver in the ear hole, everybody was just fainting and getting all bug-eyed about that. And I mean, yes, it's disgusting, but I'm not going to just, throw up over it. But, if Jeff Hardy's comfortable with those spots and he doesn't mind if his earlobe possibly gets ripped off, you do you, boo. But moment of the night right here. Charlotte Flair loses to Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch wasn't even really a heel in the situation. Like, there was the one part where she didn't break on the 5 count on the ropes, and then she didn't shake Charlotte's hand at the end of the match, but Charlotte once again was trying to steal Becky Lynch's spotlight, and Becky was going to have none of it. So, going to have to see what happens on SmackDown tonight. Hopefully they right the course and keep Becky Lynch as a tweener at the most, maybe just an outright babyface. I don't know if they were going to turn Charlotte. I mean, is Vince McMahon, out of all these years where he was stubborn on the Roman Reigns push, because it's not Roman Reigns, it's only Becky Lynch, that he will be open to turning Becky Lynch babyface and, actually listening to the fans? Probably not. But we can all hope. I mean, everything else on the show. I mean, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins against Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler for the Tag Team Championship. This best match of the show, probably. One of the best tag team matches of WWE this year. One of maybe WWE's best matches. I thought the finishing sequence was fantastic. Obviously, you're not going to have Drew and Ziggler drop the titles right now. They've had it for only for like a week or two. But going forward, you're going to have all these matches. I mean, there's so many shows to keep track of now, especially on Raw. They plugged a new one. Now we have the Saudi Arabia show. Oh, boy. Just WWE. what, can we just plug one thing at a time? Like, we'll talk about this on the Bulletcast, but there was just so much stuff going on in Raw. They're plugging all these different shows, all these different products, all these things. It's just, can we just focus on one thing at a time, please? But yeah, just this match, fantastic. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe might have been hurt a little bit by the match in front of it, with the tag team match being so good. I felt like the crowd was a little dead for it, but they came alive at the end for the finishing sequence. The finish itself, I felt like it was a little bit contrived. Like, AJ knew he had Samoa Joe's shoulders pinned, so why would he tap out right when, like, the referee was counting 2? So I think that was kind of contrived a little bit. I mean, you could do something. I don't know exactly what you would do. Maybe you have AJ, like, kind of slap Joe, and then Joe thought that was a tap out, but it wasn't, like, a clear tap out. I mean, it's just like, if this was a real sport, like, I don't think AJ would have tapped when he knew he at least had to wait those last 3 seconds to see if he got pinned. And if he didn't get the pin, then maybe he would have tapped out then. So, obviously, this was all just leading to another match at the Australia show. Yeah. So, the other matches, I mean, the mixed tag match, the match wasn't all that good. Maurice and Brie, I mean, I don't know who to blame it on more. Maurice was not looking all that good in the ring. Miz and Bryan was fine. I think the only highlight of the show or the match was when Miz touched Brie, and that's when Daniel Bryan, fired up and hit him with kicks and just called him a son of a bitch. And one thing is, Daniel Bryan went for the diving headbutt, so I'm not a big fan of that. I've been saying Bryan should just never do the diving headbutt, and of course now he did it. He did it once, so once he does it once, he's probably going to do it all the time now, which is not a good sign. Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss, it was fine for what it was. Ronda, they're kind of maybe trying to expand Ronda's selling abilities. The match went 12 minutes, a lot longer than I thought it was, but you had all the bells and whistles with Alicia Fox and Mickie James at ringside, which kind of extended the match a little bit longer, but I'm happy to see Ronda go away from Alexa Bliss. Obviously, it looks like she's going to go to Nikki Bella next. So, Nikki Bella's, I guess, a little bit more of an imposing threat than Alexa Bliss is, even though she might not be, well, she's bigger, so she's going to be a little harder and maybe look a little better when she throws her. I don't know. Ronda Rousey, I think she's doing good right now in the WWE. Maybe she's going to have to get a little bit better, maybe expand her wrestling ability a little bit more, but I think right now she's doing fine. She's doing fine. I'm not going to say she's a bust right now, but might have to see, maybe by the time Royal Rumble comes around, I might want to see a little bit more improvement from Ronda. So then up next we have the main event. Obviously, what everyone's talking about, Brock Lesnar comes back. I did not see the reports earlier on in the day, but I did. I was a little behind on Hell in a Cell because I was watching the Raider game, watching the Raiders choke away another victory. That's another topic for another day. But anyways, I went up on Twitter and I saw Brock Lesnar came back, so I didn't see all the reports earlier on in the day. It got spoiled for me a little bit, but it wasn't much of a spoiler. It was just like, oh, okay, Brock Lesnar's coming back. I want to see what they do with this because I didn't actually see what the finish was. But now we know, thanks to Raw, that now we have another show to look forward to. We have a Saudi Arabia show, Crown Jewel, with Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, and Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar said he was quitting, but of course he's going to come back for that sweet, sweet Saudi money, just like Shawn Michaels is going to be. I mean, the match itself, I think it really showed the limitations that Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman have both as competitors, but I think maybe more Roman Reigns just because, I mean, Braun Strowman is a big man. There's not that much you can expect from him to do in the ring. Roman Reigns, I mean, you hope your top babyface in the company could carry Braun Strowman to some sort of a match. Without all these bells and whistles, you have Drew and Dolph coming down, you have Seth and Dean coming down, and Seth and Dean and all, the other four guys in the match are just kind of doing their own thing, and they're just up on the cage, and they're falling off the cage, and both these, Roman and Braun, are selling for like 10 minutes when they were just taking like all this punishment and taking these finishers, and they were kicking out of them. And so now that, their friends come by. Now they have to sell in the ring for like 10 minutes and like barely even move, which I thought was a little fake, or a lot fake. I thought they could have done something in the ring where they kind of get up, they do like a double down spot where they're okay, that's why they're down for a couple minutes longer. And then Brock comes out, lays both of them out. Paul Heyman sprays Mick Foley's eyes, and I don't believe we got any follow up to that on Raw yesterday. So just another thing of maybe WWE just kind of brings in Mick Foley, just another bell to add to the other bells and whistles in this match. So the match itself, I mean, it had a big time feel. It had the main event style you would want, especially in a Hell in a Cell match. I don't think it's going to be the last one, but I think they need to do away with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The other type of gimmick pay-per-views, TLC, it's coming to San Jose in December. I would not want that to be I don't want gimmick matches to be the name of a pay-per-view, because it's just so contrived. You'd be like, oh, it's Hell in a Cell, so we're going to put you in a Hell in a Cell, even though that should be a blow-off. And this is even though it's not the first match they've ever had, but it's the first match in their new feud. So now, like, where do you go from here? You just had a Hell in a Cell match, and then you're going to come back, and now you're just going to have a triple threat match. Yeah, so all in all, I thought Hell in a Cell was a decent show. I give it a slight thumbs up. Out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5, 3.25, maybe. I mean, nothing really stood out. There was a fantastic tag team match, but everything else was kind of good to all right. Nothing was terrible, except for the mixed tag match, but even that, it had its moments, I guess. So that'll do it for me for today. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to follow the Bulletcast on all our different social medias, Twitter, Instagram. Email us at bulletcast2suite, that is the number 2suite at gmail.com. Make sure to listen to my other podcast that I do with my friend Dominic. It's called Curveballs and Chair Shots. We talk about sports and wrestling. Talk about sports first, and then we talk about the wrestling, because we know a lot of people probably listen to wrestling podcasts, not a whole lot of sports podcasts, so we're going to go over that. My co-host Dominic picked the Browns to win the Super Bowl. Right now, I mean, they have had their best start since 2004, but they still have not had a win yet. So that's going to be, going to see if maybe the Browns can get back on track this Thursday when they face the Jets. Get off the schneid. Jets are going to choke against the Browns. The Browns are going to get their first win in like 2 years. So hope for that. Maybe the Raiders don't choke, but they probably will. So thank you all very much for listening. Make sure to tune into the Bulletcast episode coming up this Friday, and we will be going to All Pro Wrestling on Friday, so probably do some sort of post-show for that, or I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm not the head guy. That's Philip's job. So goodbye and good night. Bang.